When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, and welcome back to the Grease Comedy YouTube channel. Today's video, we are going to be talking about the Daenerys Fire Wight theory. So for you guys that are not familiar with this theory, basically the idea is that Daenerys actually died and came back to life. So similar to Beric in the books, or if you want to go off of the show, similar to, I guess, Jon, because he comes back through, it is believed, the religion of R'hllor, or the god R'hllor. So the idea here is going to be, how could this be possible with Daenerys, and what is the evidence suggesting and or going against the theory? So we'll be discussing whether this is a likely theory or it's more of a tinfoil type of theory. Now, before we get into the video, if you guys like to like, subscribe, and comment, please do it. I'll share and go reach your people that might like this content as well. And let's get into the video. So the first part of the theory I would like to discuss is we're kind of told that Daenerys sacrifices three bodies or souls, basically, to awaken her three dragons, right? This is supposed to be Rhaego, her child, Drogo, and also Mirri Maz. Now, the problem with this idea, and as people have thought with this theory, is that, well, Rhaego actually was used to give Drogo life. So if we're looking at it from that point of view, there's only two lives being used here. So the idea here is that there were actually three lives used, but it was actually Daenerys who was actually used. And this then would beg the question, well, then how did Daenerys come back? So for us to look at that, we have to look at the only other real character that we can kind of look at that is in a kind of a similar situation, but not really, would be Beric. So Beric, we're told, is brought back through Thoros, and he gives him basically the first kiss of life. Now, the way I think we could maybe interpret this is Daenerys gives her life to bring about the dragons, so in return, maybe the dragons give her the kiss of fire. Now, this could make sense because R'hllor is kind of the god of fire and all of that idea. So, could that be possible? I think I'd be willing to accept that explanation. I think it does make sense, especially when you look at the idea of there really were not three lives that were given to bring the dragons to awaken them. So that is the first part of it, and then let's move on to the next idea. So the next idea that I think could also be used to support what I've just said about how she is reborn at this funeral pyre is that we get a quote in Dance with Dragons with Tyrion's second chapter, and this comes from Illyrio. So Illyrio states, "The frightened child who sheltered in my manse died on the Dothraki Sea and was reborn in blood and fire. This dragon queen who wears her name is a true Targaryen." Now, Illyrio means this in a figure of speech type way, or kind of like a metaphor. He doesn't mean this literally, but could we take it as being literally? I think it's possible. Maybe George R.R. Martin is subtly hinting at that she could be a Fire Wight, that maybe when she goes in, she actually does die, but then she's reborn as a Fire Wight, as a full-blown Targaryen. I think that is interesting to talk about when looking at this theory. So the next idea I want to touch on is, why is Daenerys immune to fire at the pyre? Now, this is something we know is different from the show. So in the show, Daenerys is very much immune to fire. It has really no effect on her at all. And in the book series, that's not at all, right? Daenerys can feel heat, she can feel these type of things. But after this funeral pyre and how she could be possibly resurrected, she does kind of have some ideas of a Fire Wight, right? She sits in this pyre all night with only her hair burning off. That's it. That's the only thing that happens. So maybe because she becomes a Fire Wight, she gains some immunity to fire in this moment. All right, I think that is possible. Now, the next idea we could talk about is her sterility. So basically, she couldn't have kids. She was sterile. Right now, a lot of people have speculated this is because Mirri Maz has cursed her womb, that she cannot reproduce because of that. But it could be maybe that Mirri Maz looked into Daenerys' future very similarly to how Maggie the Frog looks into Cersei's future and sees that Dany has no children. So possibly she draws that, but because she's a Fire Wight, that is why she cannot have children. Now, the last idea I want to talk about with Daenerys and her maybe being a Fire Wight is her kind of change in personality. Now, I don't think this is a great argument because really what Game of Thrones is as a book, it's kind of the building up of Daenerys' character, where she's been this timid girl that really struggles with confidence and all of these ideas. But the theory suggests that it could be because she becomes a Fire Wight, we see a massive change in how she is as a character, where she's more confident, she's much more of a Targaryen, and people have maybe thought that that could be because she's a Fire Wight. It would line up with similar things like in Beric and Lady Stoneheart with personality changes, but maybe that's a stretch. I don't know. I personally don't believe that part of it. I think that is a little bit of loose logic, especially when you look at narratively. It makes sense for Daenerys to have that kind of a shift in character. And I think the last thing that really damns this theory, even though we don't know a ton about Fire Wights, the last thing I think really destroys this theory and makes it kind of fall apart is that Daenerys has very human urges. So she gets hungry, she's thirsty, she wants companionship, so like Dario. To me, she still has a lot of these human characteristics that we really don't see with a character like Lady Stoneheart or even Beric to a degree. So yeah, I'm interested to see what you guys think about this theory. Let me know. Do you guys think Daenerys could possibly be a Fire Wight? Or do you think this is really just a fun little theory but doesn't really have any credibility to it? So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I will see you guys all in the next theory video. Bye, guys.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.